symphony.
Hello, and welcome to MU Inked, a podcast dedicated to the stories behind people's tattoos. I am your host, Dr. Matt Walsh. I am an assistant professor of social work here at Marian University, and I don't have any tattoos.
You don't have any tattoos?
No.
Oh my gosh. That was that's such a shock. Well, I'm the guest, Angelica Smith, and I'm the director of the Unity Center and Multicultural Programs. I have 8 tattoos.
Okay. You're just shy of the record.
What's the record?
I think 10.
Oh, okay.
Sabrina did that last time.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, but so in this podcast, we hear from students, faculty, and staff as they talk about their tattoos, the meaning behind them, what led them to get their tattoos, and other fun details and tidbits along the way. So before we jump into tattoos, though, why don't you tell me a little bit about what brought you to Marian?
Okay. I was working at another institution in the city, and I was working in residence life, and I learned pretty quickly that I didn't want to do that forever. So I got the opportunity to pivot, saw the posting for the Multicultural Center or the Unity Center up, and I was like, I want to work with more students who come from backgrounds similar to me. That's what I did when I was at IU for grad school and undergrad. It was really rewarding. So I was like, okay, and it was cool because the position called for someone to come in and kind of start more initiatives around diversity, equity, inclusion, and just celebrating culture and things like that. And I'm a self-starter, so it felt almost like entrepreneurship and a job. So It's like a hybrid of both.
That's a good mix then.
Yeah. It's been really fun.
How have you found it here at Marian and kind of trying to do that work and some of the, do you have any initiatives you want to highlight real fast?
Oh, man. I've done a lot. I actually just reflected on this because I try to keep, obviously my resume updated and everything like that. So I just went through. But I think the thing that a couple things I'm most proud of would be our alumni program, which happens in the homecoming season every year. Mm-hmm. I think it's really important for students of color and otherwise marginalized students to understand what representation looks like for them, and what better representation than people who have already done what you're doing, which is, being a Knight and matriculating through college. So alumni brings us all together to hear from their alumni, network, start to build mentorship opportunities, things like that. We just celebrated our third annual alumni. So that it was the biggest one yet. We had almost 200 people in the room. Wow. So that was really cool. I'm also the advisor for UBI, the Union for Black Identity. But I love programming and I love Black student leadership and helping them. So seeing the ways that they've kind of rebuilt since I've been here, and the way that Black History Month is looking now versus maybe when it was looking before has been really cool too.
Nice. And this is my last question before we get to the tattoos.
Okay.
But I feel like a lot of universities have a Unity Center or something like that. What do you think, how is it unique or different at Marian, or is it even?
Well, one is called a Unity Center. I think that's probably the most unique thing, because you're right. Multicultural centers are pretty much standard across the country. A lot of them were built out of resistance for students feeling like they needed a space to call home on our historically white institutions. So that has been pretty standard. But the fact that it's a Unity Center, I think, is unique. And the students have really taken a lot of pride in the fact that we call it a Unity Center and not a Multicultural Center. Because we had conversations about changing it, and they didn't want to. So
Very cool. All right. Well, so like I said, the focus of this show is tattoos and how we got them and why we got them and all that stuff. So you said you have 8. Which one was your first one?
So I have a yin yang, right underneath my neck back here, and I got it when I was 16. Oh. And I grew up in Chicago. And my boyfriend at the time his family, they are really into tattoos. So they used to have tattoo parties, and they would invite an artist to their home and clear out the basement, make it, safe for him to do it or whatever, and just invite a lot of people over, food, drinks, the whole thing. And they themselves would get their tattoos free because the other people that would come would pay. So I really wanted a tattoo when I was 16, and I told my mom, and she was like, absolutely not. So I wrote her a letter. Okay. I wrote her a letter to convince her to let me get this tattoo, and she actually sent it to me like a year ago. She found it in her stuff and was like, girl, do you remember this? And I was like, this is so cringe and so me. Yes, I do remember this. But I love it and I hate it. I love it because of what it stood for at the time was me branching out into my own and like defying like religious culture in a sense. I'm a PK, so in the church, all my family was like, no, you can't mark up your body, it's your temple and everything like that. And I was like, I'm pretty confident God will still love me if I express myself this way. And I felt that then and I feel that now. So doing it then was like a rebellious thing, but it also just meant something to me. All my tattoos mean something to me, right? The thing I hate the most about it is that the artist drew some sun rays around it that I did not ask for. Oh. And I, to this day, am like, how could you have been so confident in that choice of putting something on me that's permanent without my permission? Like, I was livid after that, but yeah.
So I'm curious about a couple of things. So. So you wrote the letter, but did that convince your mom?
Yeah.
Or really?
She got one too.
She came with you?
Yes.
Oh,
she went to the tattoo party, me, her, and my sister, and she ended up getting one too.
What'd she get?
She got like a flower and a butterfly or something. I don't know. But
any sun rays?
No. To which I said, like, sir, are you serious right now?
Yeah, that was my other question too. Is how do you as like a 16-year-old at a tattoo party, first tattoo, you tell them what you want, you get it, but then you get some
Well, and okay, if I can go back just a little bit further, I didn't even want that. The yin yang was my second choice. I wanted quotation marks because I had this thing back then where I loved quotes, and I've always loved words. But I was like, there's too many good quotes. I'm not gonna just quote on my whole body and look like a notebook. So I said, let me just get 2 quotes, like on my shoulder blades. And he said, well, those look like 2 6s and 2 9s. I don't want to do that. I'm not comfortable with that design choice. And I was just like, okay, that's not what that is, but I get it, whatever. So then the yin yang was my second choice. And I was just like, that's it. That's all I wanted. So the sun rays, like I said, it really irritated me that he did that. But I didn't know what I could do because it's permanent. So now it serves as when I have kids, I'm going to tell you, this is why you don't get tattooed when you're 16 in someone's basement.
Yeah, that's been an interesting thing as I've talked to some guests because, one, I think you're the first person to get that first tattoo and not hide it from a parent because everyone else has hidden it so far on this show. So you broke that. But then also there is kind of this, mostly with the faculty or staff, because I think we have more age than our students do.
Yeah.
But that kind of metamorphosis or that change of what a tattoo has meant maybe at the time that you got it versus today.
Yeah.
And we can I say we, I don't have a tattoo. My guests have been able to reflect back and oh, it meant this at this point. Now I feel like it means this. And it's interesting just how life is a journey and how it can change the meaning of something that is on our bodies.
Definitely.
Okay, so have you ever gotten the quotation marks?
No.
Okay. Is that
I never got the quote.
A future one maybe?
Probably not. Now that I think about it, I'm really glad I didn't do it. Just because I don't know. I just can't see myself with that having as much meaning as the symbols that I have on me now. I think that, I don't know. It's a symbol in itself, but I just feel more connected to the other artwork that I chose.
Yeah, so what else do you have on?
Oh gosh, okay. So my second tattoo was also at a tattoo party, but it was one that I hosted for my 18th birthday. I had cool parents at this point. I'm like, the fact that you said that they had to hide it, I mean, my mom was definitely not down for it, but she, I'm a pretty convincing person. So I got an anchor on my ankle, and I was 18, so I was getting ready to graduate high school and go away. And that's just a symbol for me to always remember where I come from and just stay grounded, which I didn't need any help with. I'm a Capricorn. That's just part of the territory. I have a semicolon on my pinky right here. I have a sword that's kind of made out of flowers with the handle and the word exceedingly here, which is my Bible verse tat, Ephesians 3:20. And then I have this is me and my sister's tat. So these are both of our names. This is the Angelica plant, and this is the anise plant.
Oh, cool.
And we did not know that we were both named after plants. It just kind of worked out that way, so we chose that for our sister tat. This is the runtime of my favorite album, and then I have a lotus flower that's kind of like on my sternum.
Okay.
And I think that's it.
All right. Okay, so we'll break down a couple of these because stuff popped out to me.
Yeah.
All right, so first off, what is the album?
Okay, so it's actually 2 albums by the same person. So Jaguar 1 and 2 by Victoria Monet. It came out, I think Jaguar 1 was probably like 2020, and 2 came out last year. And it is just such a groovy situation. I really love the symbolism that she chose for the Jaguar. If you're not familiar with Victoria Monet, she's an R&B singer. She's written for like Ariana Grande, Chris Brown, like so many large acts, but she herself has always kind of been in the shadows. And so she uses Jaguar as a metaphor for when they're ready to come, you're not going to see them coming. Like they're going to kind of come out of the night. So she writes about love, loss, relationships, having a good time on both of these albums. And when I tell you, they're almost no skippable. There's one song on the second album that I do not like. I've tried to give it so many chances, and I just can't stand it. So I actually took that song out at the time. So it truly is like a unique, like, this is my connection to these, this album set.
Now, did that come out like at a time in your life when you were looking for something, or like, because we all have like favorite albums, but like obviously I would think it would be a little bit more to then like take the song you don't like out, put it on your body, like, so yeah, what is it about it?
I think that at the time the first album came out, it was right before, I remember hearing it like right before the pandemic. And so I think that was a grounding album for me just during that time of like trying to navigate adulthood, but now we're in a global pandemic, and my parents live, a state away, and I'm kind of just figuring this out on my own. So I felt very connected to her in that sense of like, you just got to grind it out, and you gotta work and figure it out. The second album definitely came at a time where I was dealing with some really hard truths in my personal life, and she talks about that same concept on that album too, so it carried me through that as well.
Very nice. So moving up your arm a little bit to the sister tattoo.
Yeah.
So I'm always curious when people get tattoos with somebody else of like, what is that conversation like? Like, who initiates that? Like, how do you decide on something?
Yeah.
And so I'm just super curious.
My sister is super tatted.
Okay.
Super. So it was like, I was like, we got to hurry up and get this or you're not going to have space left. She got both her arms up. I think she wants to get a sleeve. But I'm pretty sure I initiated the conversation, but it just because I was noticing that we both were into tattoos. And so I was like, oh, why don't we get a sister tat? And I think that we had the cliche conversation of like, do we get 2 hearts or do we get, I don't know, something funny from our childhood or whatever. But then I had this idea of a tree because I was thinking about what is something that comes from the same place. Because we technically have other siblings that we do not share both parents with, right? Okay. So I'm thinking about what is something unique to us that shows that we both come from our mom and dad and like kind of communicates the bond that we have with each other. And so at first I was thinking about the tree, and then I remembered that her name is a plant. And I discovered that my name was a plant by my dad had a Herbal Essences shampoo or something. Yeah. And I was like randomly reading the bottle and saw Angelica plant. And I was like, I'm a plant? So I Googled it, and it's like a celery plant or something. I don't know. Okay. It's in the wild. And anise is like an herb. And so I was like, oh, well, we're both plants. So then I look up the pictures of both of the plants and realized they kind of look similar, and so do me and her. So I said, oh, this has got to be what we do. Yeah, it has to be. So when I was working at Butler, I had my grad student at the time. She was really, really artistic, and I said, hey, can you take these 2 plants and like draw them up out of the same stem? And so she actually drew this. Oh, that's cool. And the tattoo artist kind of tweaked it just based off of what we wanted for our preferences, but. Yeah, that's how it happened.
Really nice. Yep. Now, what makes you pick a location on your body? And did your sister get it in the same spot, or okay? So, yeah, what was it about that location?
Both got it in the same spot. I knew I wanted it on the left side because anything that has to do with like things that I feel emotionally, I want on my left side because of my heart. So, and also she actually got hers on her right arm because her left arm was already taken. So we got them in the same positions, just different arms. And it worked out for the pictures because we could just put them right next to each other. It was really cute. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't have any, this was my first really visible tat that I remember getting. I want to say, and I forgot, I have a tattoo here too. I forgot about this one. This was my first visible one, and I think I was trying to be more like, okay, stop going small, like, you know, show you're getting these for a reason, so like show them. Yeah. And then I went real crazy with this one. So yeah, I think that's how that conversation came up.
All right. Very interesting. Now, assuming your parents didn't know that your names were plants?
I really don't think they did. My mom named my sister Anise without knowing that my dad's sister's middle name is Anise.
Oh.
And they spell it differently. My aunt spells it like how it's actually spelled. My sister's is a variation, but she just my sister's first name is my middle name without a J. So my middle name is Janice and hers is Anise.
Okay. All right. Very cool. All right. So let me think. What else are we going to go to?
I forgot about this one up here.
Okay.
Yeah, so lots of floral, but...
Yeah. And so you have kind of a theme, I guess, where it's like the emotional kind of meaningful, like not all meaningful, but kind of the more emotional stuff on your left. So I think, is there one more? Is that pinky one on your left hand? Yeah, so tell us about that one a little bit.
Yeah, so this is probably the saddest tat that I have. Unfortunately, in 2013, I had a friend pass from suicide, and I was a sophomore in college at the time, you know, just out by myself, trying to figure out the world, and found out that had happened to him, and it was really devastating for me. Like, that was onset of probably what will become years of just depression. And again, just like reconciling with, this is a real reality that people deal with, mental health, or lack thereof. So on his birthday the next year, it wasn't his birthday. On his death day the next year, so 2014, I got this as a symbol of just me being more aware of people's mental health, you know, conditions, and doing what I can to. There's a quote I remember seeing in high school that said, be somebody who makes everybody feel like a somebody. And just thinking about how recognizing other people matters, you know? So that was just a promise that I made. I put it on my pinky because it was a promise. It was kind of cliche.
Okay, that was going to be my next question. What was it about the pinky? You know what?
Yeah.
It's been fun to interview people and hear their stories, and I really like it when you know that there's been thought in the tattoo itself and the location of it. I guess that's what I would want for people to be like, oh, you want it to be meaningful. You want it all to have meaning. Yeah. And as a reminder of something. So it's nice when there's multiple layers to it.
Definitely. And this will be the 10th year in December. It'll be the 10th year since I got this one. So I've been holding on, been doing my best. Okay. I unfortunately did lose another friend to suicide a couple years back. But I think that because I had already had that experience, I was able to navigate it with a lot less guilt and a lot more just acceptance. Yeah. That was powerful for my grief journey, I think. Okay. So.
Well, that's good. And yeah, it's always.
It's never easy, right?
No, and it's always it's such like a complicated thing to go through as a friend or as a loved one or whoever it may be. Yeah. I'm sorry you had to go through that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So. Let's move to your right arm then. Okay. Or, yeah, it's your right arm. Okay, so the sword with the flowers. Tell me about that.
Okay, I think you're going to get a kick out of this one. So, I think around 2019, 2020, I really started getting clear on what my personal values were. And using those as a way to filter out decisions that I was making in my personal life. And so I lead with that when I interact with students and even staff and faculty, but I work mostly with the students. That's who I see every day. So I was having a conversation with a student who's now graduated, and she was having a really, really hard time with her friend group and her relationships and her family and everything. And I said, well, student, what are your personal values? Like, do you know what those are? And at the time, she didn't. And so a couple months go by, we come back, we're having the same conversation, and I think I had gotten fed up with her a little bit because I was like, yo, these people that you bring in your life, you gotta believe that if you were at war, I love Game of Thrones, so I use this as like a metaphor. I say you gotta believe that if you were at war with a different house that y'all would be back to back, swords up, ready to go, and that they wouldn't like try to stab you in the back or chop your neck off or something like that and betray you. Like that's how you need to go into relationships, trusting that those people are going to do that for you. And if they show you that they're not going to do that, then you don't need to be in a relationship with them, because she's a very loyal person. And so am I. So I was like, I'm trying to like, you know, tell you how I'm looking at this. I don't bring people around my personal, like my home or my relationship. I don't let people get close to me if they don't show me that they can handle like who I am, because I don't want to have to think about what weapons you're looking for to kill me in my own house, metaphorically, right?
Yeah.
So a couple more weeks probably go by, and she comes back and says, I'm gonna get a sword tat. And I was like, not if I get it first. Because I was like, I wanna figure out a way to communicate my personal values and kind of like the anchor, like have a reminder. But I didn't even think to put two and two together of like, oh, a sword tat. Because, you know, it's like you're standing on business, like this is what I mean, but the flowers all represent my personal values. And then I have a gemstone in here that represents courage. So just a reminder to always be courageous in expressing my values and like not backing down when someone is trying me.
Now, so for a tattoo like that, when it's like, okay, I know what I want, like, are you like searching through images and bringing something to the tattoo artist, or are you just saying like, I want a sword, like, what do your swords look like?
Yeah, no, I literally found a girl up in Carmel, and these tats, this one up here, this one, that one, this one are all what like people would say fine line. I really was into that. I got this last year for my birthday, so really was into the fine line imagery. So I found a girl up in Carmel. I found her from Instagram, and I had Googled all of these flowers. First I knew what my core values were, right? So community, growth, courage, and authenticity. I was like, okay, what are plants or flowers that represent these? And some of them have double meanings. So because I also have flowers here, I said, well, let me not repeat. Let me, get something different. When I saw the freesia plant, I was like, this is perfect because it's the X of the sword or whatever, like the crossway.
Yeah.
This is a hydrangea for community, and then which is perfect because it's in the middle. And then this is a gladiolus, which represents growth, and is perfect because it is talking about or is moving up. Yeah, between finding these images and then I kind of found like a sword image that I liked, I just said, hey, this is what I want. I kind of described how I wanted it to look. She sent it back. I said, let's do it.
All right, great. Now, so like the hydrangea, I've heard that before. I actually have those like in front of my house. But like, cool. How does that represent community? Is that like a you? Is that like this is kind of like what people say about it?
That's what people say about it.
Okay.
Yep.
I wonder do you know what it's about?
I really don't. I should know that off the top of my head, but I don't.
Okay. I'm asking a ton of questions. All right. Any others that we haven't talked about that you want to touch on?
This was an acceptance tattoo for me. I'm kind of into astrology, so I really like using that as a tool to learn just about myself and the world that we're in. And I recently realized that I have very fiery emotions. Like when I'm really angry, I'm really angry. Or when I'm really sad, I'm really sad.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, it's because you're a Leo moon. So I got a half moon in the shape of flowers that represent traits of Leo. Okay. So just as an acceptance. Because I'm a Capricorn sun, so when it comes to the emotional stuff, Capricorn doesn't really like that. But it's a part of who I am, and so I just have to, it's like an acceptance tap.
I feel like a lot goes into like a tattoo for you.
Oh yeah,
like
for sure.
How long do you like marinate on like, okay.
Yes, I knew you were gonna ask that. Yeah, it takes me a while to commit. I think we started talking about the sister tattoo in like 2018, and we got it in 2023.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a long time.
It took a long time.
Yeah. And is that something that you just kind of think about sporadically, or is it like pretty constant? Like, okay, like.
That's a good question. I think it really just depends on the phase of life I'm in. So I'm planning my next one now, and it's really not much planning that needs to be done aside from choosing the artist. And I guess placement. But when I got this tattoo, I decided that I wanted to do a half sleeve and kind of have it as like my family garden. So this is me and my sister. I'll get something for my parents at some point, my children, things like that. But my grandmother passed away in May. And thank you, I appreciate that. And before she passed, I had the thought to ask my aunt, who was living with her at the time, to write a quote that she used to say all the time to me. So this will be probably my only, well, I guess these are words, but one of my only word tats. She used to always tell me, "You be good now." Like when I would leave, she'd be like, "You be good now." So I had her write it. And then she passed away a couple months later, and I was like super sad about it, but I was like, I'm so glad I had her write that so that I can and I had her, in her handwriting. And I think I'm going to get it back here. So I've been stewing on that probably since I'll say the beginning of the year, but not knowing that I would get it this year.
Yeah. Okay. All right, just a couple of practical questions. So out of those, which one hurt the most?
It's actually a tie between the sword and the time. Because he went really deep on this one.
I say it's right by the bone a little bit too.
Yeah, he went really, really deep. And this one was just the way that where this flower ends up here by my under armpit is so sensitive. But yeah, I would say probably between those.
Okay. Have you ever gone to an artist and said, this kind of want, and they kind of talk you out of something or maybe into something else?
Absolutely not.
Okay, you just know what you want.
I'm not having that.
Good for you. Good for you.
Because I'm and I've been really fortunate to work with artists who understand the permanence of a tattoo. So they're like, if we have to go back to the drawing board, then that's just what we're gonna have to do. And for the sword, she did that a couple times. Because she was like, I want you to love it forever. It's going to be on your body. So. Oh,
I feel like that's really important, to think about, when you find an artist.
Yeah.
Or, as you're searching.
Definitely.
That makes a lot of sense to me.
The yin yang was probably the only issue I've had with the tattoo artist.
Yeah.
Never seen that man again.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess that leads me to another question I like to ask people, too. If you could go back and do anything differently with any of your tattoos, would you change anything? I get the sense that the yin yang has some frustrations, but would you change it?
Probably not.
And why not?
Because it represents a time in my life where I was just owning my individuality. And I feel like it's really easy for us as humans to move into groupthink and to go with the flow of just what's around us. And while people were getting tattoos of prayer hands or, other people's names, some people were getting faces. I was like, whoa, that's a little much. Or, I remember Wale dropped an album in 2011 and my friend got Ambition on the side of her arm because she loved the album. And I was just like, I don't know if I have that much attachment to that album, but I love that for you.
Yeah.
So while people were kind of going in that direction, I was just I think I was already thinking about what are my core values, and the yin yang represents balance. I've always been someone that's tried to find my own personal balance. So even today, right, we're going to be on campus until late for trunk or treat. So I said, I'm not going to come in at 9 a.m. I'm going to try to balance this out because I still need to rest and do what I need to do. So that's a long-winded way of saying, I don't think I would have changed it. I think if anything, it's a reminder that I knew who I was at 16. I was a little unfiltered, but it's a good thing because I've always been my own person, and I love that about me.
That's wonderful. Yeah. No, and I like it when people can find meaning in things, maybe even in sometimes that were unexpected things.
Yeah.
I think that's powerful. I like that. All right, so here's potentially maybe a silly question.
No such thing. I'm loving it.
You. If you could give a tattoo to anybody in your life, who would it be and what would you make them get?
Oh my God, I would definitely tattoo my dad.
Does he have any?
No.
Okay.
No. So let me give you some context, Matt. My dad will be 80 years old in December.
Okay.
Vietnam vet. He used to be a pastor. He is super anti-tattoo. Loves that we have him, but he's not gonna do it. Now, what I would give him, I don't know. I have no clue. I might just put my name on him or something. But
yeah.
But I would love to tattoo him. Yeah, just because I know he would hate it.
Yeah. That'd be really fun. That's good. I like asking that question too because people go one of two ways, and sometimes both ways. They either go kind of a little mean and I'm gonna do this, or they go kind of sweet.
Yeah. It'd probably be something silly. He's so unserious. Even at almost 80 years old, he's super unserious. So it'd probably be something silly.
That's fun. You sound like you have a fun family.
You know, we have a good time. I'm looking forward to Thanksgiving.
All right, wonderful. Well, I think that's going to wrap up our episode.
Okay, cool.
So just thank you so much for coming and talking about your tattoos.
Yeah.
And then for anybody listening, if you're on campus and you've got a cool tattoo store and you want to chat with me, find me, email me, you can be on the show. So just, thanks to everyone for listening, and thanks, Angelica, for being a wonderful guest.
Thank you for having me. This is
You're
cool.
very welcome.
The symphony